Well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to say it's a bright, sunny, sunshine day, but instead I'll say it's a bright, rainy, happy day, because we've been waiting for this rain for a very long time. Even with a microphone on, I don't know that you're going to hear a single word I'm saying. But anyway, I was going to give you a walk around, but I'm not walking around the garden, and there's not much to report on. The tomatoes are just about surviving. I've been feeding them with my comfrey feed. They still need something else. I have given them a Epsom salt feed as well, just a little bit. I don't want to give too much because I'm not into too many, even natural chemicals. But I do have to remind the men in the family that I need a bucket filled before they do anything else this morning. I'll be feeding them lots and lots of hot drinks and water, because everything needs more nitrates, especially the potted plants, because their compost and soil runs out of nutrients very quickly. The rain doesn't get to them, so even though it's raining now, I will have to check the tomato and squash buckets later, because sometimes with the plants growing lush around over the soil, the rain doesn't get to it. It's not like being in the ground. This is beginning to sound pointless. Oh my word. But look, from here I can show you things are still growing. We actually harvested our first sweet corn 2 days ago. We had sweet corn for supper. I know it's not a complete meal, but we didn't feel like food. It was a bit hot, so we just had some sweet corn. Cooked for no more than 3 or 4 minutes, because it's fresh and it's still popped in your mouth when you bit into it, and it was absolutely delicious. There's still things harvesting. I also last night made some beetroot relish for the first time in a long time, because it's the first time I've had a small but bulk crop of beetroot, enough to make one batch of beetroot relish. And because I have been trying to stay away from sugar and all sorts of things like that, there's only 2 things that I will make every year if I have enough for it, and that is beetroot relish or raspberry jam. And since we just left the allotment, and the plants I brought home, all of 2, are still only tiny little new things from cuttings I started last year, so they're not going to give us much fruit just yet. So no raspberry jam this year. So those are the only 2 things that I will make that take a lot of sugar, because they're a treat for us. And it is absolutely delicious, and it's one of those things that just makes the heart sing, even though it's not a very good thing with all that sugar. So I made some beetroot relish yesterday. I was worried that I'm being so busy that I'm not going to get any time to actually preserve and store things, but the idea of the garden is that I will be able to grow what we use as we use it from the garden seasonally through the year, winter and all the other seasons. So there's something appropriate for each season. I know that I won't be able to store everything. I know I won't be able to store a lot of things. Some things you just need to use fresh. I don't have enough space in the house to store hundreds of jars of preserved, either canned or dried stuff, or I definitely don't have enough freezer space for everything, and I definitely do not have a big enough fridge to store stuff fresh and use it all very quickly. So foraging is definitely a great way of growing and saving and using your plants and food. A lot of things actually I wanted to talk about. Not quite sure how to go about it. Most people say, you have to have a plan and a bullet point system to make a good video and make it watchable. But it's thoughts that have come to my mind as people have been talking about the current situation of what's going on globally and in Europe and weather-wise and all sorts. And there's, as I said in the last few videos, there's a lot of doom and gloom going on. There's a lot of different bandwagons people are jumping on. And it looks like we're getting to a point where we have to jump on one or other bandwagon, and we need to be careful which bandwagon we're jumping on. Each wagon is driven by a particular person or persons. So we need to be aware of who is driving which bandwagon and be careful of the wagon we hop on. I have seen for a couple of years now and noticed, and I've stopped watching the news much, but I think I really should be knowing what's going on. But I am weary of news and media. It's driven by someone or some persons with agendas. I very rarely believe very much of what is said anymore. Even though there might be some wonderful news, there might be some sincere reporters. But I treat media with skepticism because there are so many agendas, and they're not all for the benefit of all. So, and neither, though, do I want to be ignorant or, what do you call it, dismissive or careless. I need to think carefully about what I'm doing. Now, I have said before that many of the things that I want to do are to be self-reliant, to be resilient. But also, as I do that, I find myself preparing for many little things, like catching my onions at the right time and getting them stored before the rain comes so that they don't rot and perish and I can store some onions. Like making my relish so that through the winter I've got a few treats. Like lots of things. Allowing my plants to go to seed so that next year I have plants to grow in case I can't afford the seeds. Our finances in this family have always been stretched, regardless of what's been going on around us for decades. Well, the nearly 3 decades that I have had this family of mine, excuse me, we've always had stretched finances. We've always struggled, and we've always had to rely on make, do and mend and frugality and thrift. That's just been the way our family's always had to be. Regardless of global economic crises, regardless of British exit of Europe, regardless of the climate, we have always had to make, do and mend in this family. But now it seems that it's very important that we share these experiences, because there are many more people, because of these external factors that are happening to people. And that's not counting individual factors of families and individuals who go through all sorts of crises of job losses, family losses, and things like that. So there's been a lot of negative and destructive talk lately about what's been going on in the news, and that authorities are almost promoting what they want to happen. I know that sounds conspiracy theorist, but who benefits from all these negative things to happen? It gives carte blanche. If we go through with what they are trying to brainwash us into, I say brainwash lightly, I don't mean it technically, I just mean that we are being manipulated. Many people have been talking about the warnings given and the fears, the fear mongering going on with politicians at the minute. Yes, we are in for a lot of trouble. It is going to hit the fan. But things have always hit the fan, and we've always been splattered by it, And yet we clean ourselves off and we keep going and we keep trying to do the right thing. Yes, there are many individuals who are not of the same mindset as us. There are individuals who will fall for the fear-mongering, who will react instead of act upon, because they've been fed this negative scenario. It doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. It is not needful. What is needful is not a violent, brutal, destructive revolution, although that's what many people want and say that is needed. But that is never a good solution. It causes more harm than fixes anything. The silent revolution, though it may take longer, is far more effective at positive solutions. The silent revolution begins within ourselves. It affects us to change ourselves, by which we then change our environments positively, which then affect other people and influence them to change themselves positively and their environments, like ripples in the water, in the same way, in the very same way that negative actions, negative events cause ripples that make things worse perpetually. So let's be careful which bandwagon we jump on in this coming year or more, because these journeys usually take a number of years. Looking back at 2008, it might take a few years to recover from the negative effects of the fear-mongering bandwagons. So a positive, permaculture positive solution is to be prepared mentally and physically and temporally to be able to not get caught up in the negativity, while everyone else, or not everyone, but a majority and many people will be jumping on those bandwagons. There will have to be people to try and pick up the pieces and fix it, to bind up the wounds caused by selfishness, by greed, by fear, by corruption. We need everybody to be ready to fix and mend and heal as far as is our ability. And yes, be wise at the same time. I love the scripture and the saying, to be wise as serpents, yet harmless as doves. It's really important. So be wise. If you're going to store up slowly, sensibly, and do your research. Don't go emptying shelves and panic buying. Look at what happened earlier in the year with the snow and all the, oh my gosh, do you remember that? Ugh, people, it's not necessary. It doesn't do any good. It causes problems. And for what? Be wise. Yeah, be wise. Grow your own. Plant a garden. Start somewhere. As you can hear my neighbour's ducks, I have another dilemma. My neighbour he's got one duck and one chicken left that he wants to rehome. He asked us if we wanted them, and as you know, I have been toying with getting chickens, but I've been weighing up the pros and cons, trying to be wise. In our financial situation, we couldn't exactly afford chickens. Yes, they will help to manure the garden, so we won't have to buy in the poultry manure. You don't actually need the manure, generally speaking anyway, so that does away with that problem. We don't actually need the poultry manure. It helps, but it's not necessary. You can live without the manure. They will scratch up and eat up the slug eggs and other pests, but I'm sure they'll also eat the good guys, because it's food. and they will also turn compost for me. I won't have to wait and turn the compost myself every couple of weeks, because the chickens would turn the compost and make it into compost much quicker than I could do it. But again, it's not necessary. It would save time. I also, the cons of having the chicken or the duck is that I would have to go around all the hedges and fences around, because we've got hedge there and a hedge at the back. This fence is secure on that side, but the hedge at the back and that side underneath, there are gaps for birds to escape, and also for foxes and cats to get in. So I would have to secure the bottoms of the hedges and the fences. I mean, cats would get in anyway over the top of the fences, but, and I'm sure foxes would dig their way in under the neighbour's fence, but he's got a lot of dogs, so I'm not going to get foxes from next door there. But from that one, that house is empty at the minute. And I know there's a terraced houses at the back, so it's not likelihood of a fox getting in through the middle. But at the end of the terrace, they could get in. And we do have foxes at the front garden, so there are foxes in the area. There are seagulls as well. I can't do much about that. So I would have to provide shelter. I mean, there's a lot of, by the bushes and the trees that chickens would be able to hunt and scratch around under there, and shelter under the bushes. But their sleeping place, that means that fruit cage over there would become also a chicken coop, and that's fine, but I'd have to find the money to get the wood to make them a good shelter and a good coop that would be insulated and resilient in a natural way, a recycled way, but even that is still expensive for us. So it's the finances of building shelter and coop, securing the fencing and the thing, and then, because our garden is literally, front and back is literally a very big allotment, I'm not going to be able to grow enough grain to feed the birds. And there are a lot of birds, I mean, in the wild and in nature, they aren't provided by nature monoculture big fields of grains. There are no planted grains in nature where chickens originate that they actually need grain. So I'm sure that they could survive without the grain. They will find their own food and their own sources. And I do grow amaranth, I grow corn, I can start to grow quinoa, I can start to grow millet, other millet, I'm sure. I could even start to grow sorghum, but then I would have no lawn, and that's not a problem. But where do I put the pool through spring and summer to gather more rain to store for the rest of for the summer when we have water shortages? I could put water butts all along that trellising. I could put water butts all along there. I could put water butts all along the shed, but it still would not be enough. I promise you that's not enough. So there goes that dilemma. And then I'm thinking, if, and let's just be sensible now, if it's going to hit the fan, and there are people who will be falling for the fear-mongering and behave in less than human or less than good human behavior, that chicken and duck would be one of the first things that some of our neighbours might steal. If we have recognizable food in the garden, that might go. We would get break-ins. So security would be an issue. So, I wouldn't want to tell people in my neighborhood that I have birds, because they would go. And I'm afraid that people generally do not have the care or the concern or the conscientiousness when they're in that state to think about the welfare of the animal and the manner of dispatching it. So, yeah, we've just decided we're just probably going to head for veganism as much as we can, so that if anything does need to be, to be changed, we're already there and we won't have to worry about it. but we will be careful of the things that we grow so that we have a balanced nutrition regardless. Yeah, let's be careful of the bandwagon we jump on. All right, lovelies, I'm out of time now. This will take forever to upload. There's probably more I could say on that matter. I really don't want to at the moment because it's just insane. It's driving me nuts. We don't have to be manipulated, whether it be by general individuals or by those in authority who want to manipulate situations for their own agendas. Don't do it. Let's be sensible. Let's embark on the silent revolution in a positive way that people have always done anyway, regardless of these events going on. It's a bit morbid, a bit negative, and it doesn't leave me feeling inspired. It doesn't leave me feeling motivated. It doesn't leave me feeling positive. So I want you to look at this garden. Okay. It is not 100% resilient. It is not 100% foolproof. It's not 100% secure. However, it's just me doing what I love to do and looking after my family the best I can with what I have. And I'm going to keep doing that. Dark skies or not, it doesn't matter. Winter or summer, we get on with it. We find the positive in each season. Focus on it. It'll help us get through anything. So, here's me offloading, getting rid of it. I made a lovely lentil stew last night. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was hearty. And a lot of the things, most of the things in it, came from the garden. It's very satisfying and it makes me feel good. Today I'm going to be, I was going to be, let's hope, if we get a dry patch. If we don't, I won't be working outside in the rain. I don't have rainproof clothes yet. I need that for winter. Need to get it. But, oh my gosh, look how quick that bucket has filled. That's overnight. Oh my goodness, and that was practically empty. Wow, okay. So, all of these need transplanting, planting out, sorting out. I've got some seed trays ready. I've done a little bit of tidying up so I can get more seeds sown. So all of this will be sorted out and space made for more seed sowing. I will have to, for the winter, put up a shelter on that side and try and insulate it somehow so I could keep growing seeds and microgreens through the winter. I will do something, I'm not sure, but I will keep you updated, because this winter, I mean, we've had allotments and gardens for years, and yet I've never been able to keep things growing through the winter. And this year I'm determined that there will be at least one thing coming out of this garden every day of the year, regardless of the weather. So, here's to that journey. And following Charles Dowding, who did a brilliant book on growing through the winter. So, yeah, the journey continues regardless of what's going on outside. We just adapt. So whatever your journey takes you today, whatever you are doing, whatever the weather, whether the weather be fine or whether the political weather be fine or not, carry on regardless. Enjoy it and make the most of it. Have a lovely day, everybody. Speak to you soon. Bye.